Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game scheduled for Sunday, June 2nd, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Sunday, Major League Baseball. First up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Houston Astros. We're going to see Simeon Woods Richardson and Hunter Brown as your starters. Woods Richardson's pitched well this year, 2-0 record, 2.7 ERA. He only has 30 strikeouts in 40 innings, and I do expect some regression going forward. But in his last 5 starts, 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of those 5 games. The Twins have a winning record of 3-2 in those last 5 starts as well. Hunter Brown, while he's improving, is still got that ERA at 6.39 on the season. His last start could have been his best start of the year. It was 6 innings of 1 run, 9 strikeout baseball, but I still think that he is susceptible to giving up a lot of sharp contact, a lot of home runs, and the control. He's still giving up 3 or more walks in 3 of his last 5 games. So I know he has good strikeout stuff, and he's been better at Minute Maid Park, but I'm not completely in love with this spot for him, and especially when you look at the bullpens, I do think Minnesota has the advantage there. So for me, I'm going to lean towards the Twins in this game. Not my favorite game on the board, but give me the Twins on the money line. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Boston Red Sox. Casey Mize and Brian Bayo are your starters. I don't love the current form that Casey Mize is in, and when you add to the fact that he struggled on the road this year with a 6.45 ERA and 22 road innings, I just think it's tough here for the Tigers. Mize's strikeout numbers dipping is the real big concern for me. So far this year, only 34 Ks and 49 and 2/3 innings. He's had 2 or fewer strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 starts. And, the Red Sox, we know Fenway Park very hitter-friendly. The Red Sox numbers against righties pretty solid, especially the power department. Brian Bayo, while it's been an inconsistent year for him, I still think he's the better option in this game. The Red Sox are 4-1 in his last 5 starts. And while you wouldn't think it, he's actually been better at home at Fenway Park this season with a 2.87 ERA and 15 and 2/3 innings there. I got to go with the Boston Red Sox in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Atlanta Braves. No official starter for Oakland, but we should see Charlie Morton going for the Braves. Tough game, with no official starter on the other side, but I wouldn't want to back the Braves with Charlie Morton's last game. 8 earned runs, 12 base hits given up to the Nationals in 5 and 2/3 innings. And we know the A's actually were pretty competitive against right-handed pitching in the month of May, so we'll have to see who their official starter is. But right now, I'm leaning towards the A's plus the 1.5 runs on the run line. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to see Zach Littell and Cole Irvin as the projected starters. When I looked at this series preview and the projected starting pitchers in each game, this was the game that I circled that I thought the Rays had the best chance at winning, because while Cole Irvin's actually been really solid this year with a 2.84 ERA and he's been a winning machine recently, I do expect some regression going forward, and it's not an easy matchup here. The Rays, while they've been a disappointment this season, and a lot of that disappointment has been because of their offense, they've actually been pretty solid against lefties. In the month of May, they had some of the best numbers in baseball against left-handed pitching. They were number 6 in team OPS and number 7 in isolated power against southpaws. So I actually like this matchup for the Rays against Irvin. And then Zach Littell's been one of the better pitchers, most consistent pitchers for the Rays in that rotation this year. Usually a guy that can give you 5 to 6, maybe 7 strong, 3 earned run or fewer innings. Quality start machine basically. And so far in 62 and a third innings, 64 strikeouts, got a 3.03 ERA. Hasn't been as good on the road, but still a sub-4 ERA there. So I'm not too worried about it. The Orioles are a tough matchup, and they're improving against right-handed pitching. But I think this is a spot where the Rays grab a W. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. No official starter for Pittsburgh, but Chris Bassett should be going for the Blue Jays. After a disaster April, Bassett was excellent in the month of May. He had 30 innings of 8-run baseball, so that's a 2.4 ERA. He only had 26 strikeouts, but Bassett's never really been known as a strikeout guy. He's more of a pitch-to-contact guy, and he got 44 to 41 ground ball to fly ball ratio, so he's doing a great job of keeping the ball on the ground. Only 1 home run given up in the month of May, and the Blue Jays were 3-2 in those starts. So he's really turned his game around, and no official start for Pittsburgh, but right now it's tough to go against Bassett with how well he's pitching, especially at Rogers Center where we know he usually pitches his better stuff. So far this year it's right around even. Home and road splits. He's got slightly better numbers at home, but we know last year he was much better at Rogers Center. So give me the Blue Jays in this one on the money line. In our next game, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the New York Mets. Brandon Pfaadt and Jose Quintana are your starters. I think Fott's a much better option in this game, and I honestly trust the Diamondbacks bullpen more right now. Even though the Mets had a really good start to the season with their bullpen, Edwin Diaz struggled and was placed on the IL, and even guys like Reed Garrett, who were basically untouchable at the beginning of the year, we saw him give up 2 home runs in one of the games this series, and I worry about that Mets bullpen now. The lineup's been very inconsistent, so with Quintana on the mound at 5.06 ERA, he's been better at Citi Field, but not by enough for me to take a chance here. I mean, even the last game against the Dodgers, while it was a quality start at home, it was still 8 base hits and 2 home runs given up in that 3-0 loss. The Mets are 1-4 in its last 5 starts. Fott's been a lot better since the beginning of the season. Even, last game wasn't his best outing. Gave up 4 runs to the Rangers, but really it was just one mistake pitch that really ruined that outing. A 3-run home run to Corey Seager in the 5th inning. But other than that, he was pretty strong. So I'm going to go Diamondbacks in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Miami Marlins. Andrew Heaney and Trevor Rogers are your starters. A pair of starters that have 1-6 records this year, so they've not been the most profitable for their teams this season. But I think Trevor Rogers has been a lot more competitive on the mound in his most recent games. We saw the really good start against the Tigers, 5 innings, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts. He struggled a bit against the Brewers, but that's a really tough matchup against a Brewers team that's just been crushing lefties. But bounced back after that start against San Diego, 5 1/3 innings, 1 run. He only had 3 strikeouts, but still was very competitive in that one. And I think while he struggled at Lone Depot Park this season, he's facing a Rangers lineup that's not been great against lefties in the month. They weren't great in the month of May, and overall this season, their numbers aren't the sharpest. So I think that Rogers pitches pretty well, 5-6 decent innings. Andrew Heaney's not been pitching deep into ball games. His control's been off. His pitch counts have been going up, and he's not been able to go deep into ball games. So he's given up at least 1 home run in 3 of his last 4 starts. I worry about him in this spot. And, like I said, both of these starters have lost a majority of their games for their teams. So, not a lot of profit to be shown from either of these guys. But I think this is a good spot. We're getting a really good price with Miami. I'm going to take them on the money line. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Chicago White Sox. We're going to see Nick Nastrini and Freddie Peralta as your starters. To me, that's just too much of a lopsided pitching matchup. I got to go with the Brewers and lay the 1.5 runs. Freddie Peralta's had some trouble with the home run ball recently, giving up a lot of sharp contact. And even the last 2 games where he pitched really well, still gave up a home run in each of those starts. But it was nice to see that the base hits and overall, just the earned runs in general went way down in those last 2 games. He was struggling a bit. He gave up 8 base hits to the Cardinals, 8 hits, 5 runs, 2 home runs to the Astros, but bounced back in a big way against Miami and Chicago in the last 2 games with 18 strikeouts combined in those 2 outings. The walks were kept to a minimum, and I like him in this spot against a weak White Sox lineup, and especially with Nastrini on the other side, who's got that ERA just below 10 on the season, 0-4 with a 9.92 ERA, even worse numbers on the road. I got to go with the Brewers here and lay the 1.5 runs and 2.5 runs. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Kansas City Royals. We're going to see Michael King for San Diego, no official starter for KC. We've mentioned how inconsistent Michael King has been. I mean, just look at the last few starts. Back on May 15th, gave up 6 earned runs against the Rockies at Petco Park. Wasn't even at Coors Field, but then bounces back with a quality start against the Reds, and then a 5-inning, 1-run performance against the Marlins with 7 strikeouts, 2 wins for San Diego. So you never really know what you're going to get from Michael King. He's been better on the road this year. The Royals hit the ball very well, though, at Kauffman Stadium, so not an easy matchup. But, King, like I mentioned, 39 in the 3rd innings with a 3.43 ERA on the road. He has been pretty trustworthy there. And with the Royals, pitching staff, we mentioned the regression concerns with the bullpen, but even the starting rotation starting to struggle right now. They're giving up a lot of runs. While I really like this Royals lineup, it's tough to compete when you're giving up that many runs. So I'm going to go with San Diego here right now. We'll see who the official starter is for KC, but give me the Padres on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Chicago Cubs. Nick Lodolo and Ben Brown are your starters. I'm going to go with the under in this game. Both starting pitchers coming off really good outings. Ben Brown's been excellent. He had no hits given up in that last game against Milwaukee. 7 innings of no-hit baseball, 10 strikeouts, and the bullpen gave up a hit later in that game. And actually, that game went to extra innings. But he was excellent, and he's facing a Reds team offensively in the month of May, both against righties and lefties. While they were getting a little bit better towards the end of the month, still near the bottom of the league. And Nick Lodolo facing a Cubs lineup that in the month of May was 29th and 30th in isolated power and team OPS against left-handed pitching. With Lodolo coming off that really good outing in St. Louis, I think he pitches well in this game. He's been better overall on the road, the 2.41 ERA this season. Give me the under in Reds-Cubs. Next up, the New York Yankees taking on the San Francisco Giants. Nestor Cortez and Blake Snell are your starters. Interesting game here. Blake Snell still struggling, even though the Giants have won each of his last 2 starts. Cortez has also not been great on the road this year with an ERA above 6 away from Yankee Stadium and an 0-3 record. The Giants and Yankees were right around, really neck and neck in terms of OPS against lefties in the month of May. So I think both teams could show up here offensively early on. And then when you look at the bullpens, the Yankees bullpen has the better ERA, but the expected numbers are not great. And I do expect regression going forward, while the Giants, their ERA is not great on paper, but they have some of the best expected numbers in baseball. The xFIP right now, 4th best, and that bullpen is improving. The ERA is starting to drop in recent games. So I'm going to go with the San Francisco Giants here. Snell, I think he's been more competitive, even though he's still struggling. Like we saw in that last game against Philadelphia, 3 runs given up. He only went 4 innings, but he had 7 strikeouts in that one. Makes it 12 strikeouts his last 7 1/3 innings. And I trust him a little bit more here. I think the San Francisco Giants steal this game on Sunday. I'm going to go with the Giants on the money line. In our next game, we see the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Seattle Mariners. Griffin Canning and Luis Castillo are your starters. Castillo's given up a lot of sharp contact at home, not only just this year, but we also saw that last year at times. And his last 2 home games, 3 home runs combined given up. The Angels, while they're not a great offense, they're certainly improving against right-handed pitching. I think they can get to Castillo for a few runs. And while he was good enough in that last game for the Mariners to go on and win that game 4-2, he was actually set to take the loss on that one. The Mariners made a late comeback. So, Castillo, I don't love the current form that he's in, even though his numbers on paper are fine. A 3.03 ERA in the month of May, not too shabby, but 5 home runs given up. Griffin Canning has really improved since the beginning of the season. His last 5 starts, they were not easy matchups. Guardians, Royals, Cardinals, Astros, and Yankees. While the Cardinals had a rough start to the year, they really improved. So all 5 of those lineups were really tough to face. Canning gave up 3 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of those starts. And the Angels are now 2-1 in his last 3 games, including that win over the Yankees. With they were getting a good price in that one. So I'm going to go with the Angels in this one, plus the 1.5 runs, and take a shot here on the money line. I like Los Angeles to play spoiler in this one. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Austin Gomber and Gavin Stone are your starters. We know the Rockies have been a lot more competitive in this series than we expected, and it's because they haven't been great on the road this year. It's why it's surprising, but Austin Gomber has pitched so well this season with a 2.76 ERA. I do expect regression at some point. His strikeout numbers aren't off the charts. He does have some control issues here and there. He's given up a home run in 2 of his last 3 starts, but the Rockies are 3-0 in his last 3 games. He's given up 1 earned run or fewer in 4 of his last 5. It's tough to go against him in this spot at this kind of price. Gavin Stone's also coming off a really good outing, but that was against the New York Mets, who we know are struggling mightily. So for me, at this kind of price, I think it's worth a shot here to take the Rockies. You can take them on the money line, plus the 1.5 runs, maybe even 2.5 runs if you want. You're still getting a decent price at that, but I'm going to take the Rockies on the run line here, plus the 1.5. Next up, the final game for the Sunday card in Major League Baseball. It's the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Lance Lynn and Taijuan Walker are your projected starters. At this price, I got to go with the Cardinals on the money line. Lance Lynn, while I don't expect his recent success to be sustainable for the rest of the year, he is still pitching better. Last 2 games, both quality starts against the Orioles and the Reds. And Taijuan Walker is right now, I have to fade him right now. His ERA is at 5.51. He's been a bit better at Citizens Bank Park, but it's still an ERA above 5. A lot of sharp contact, a lot of base hits and extra base hits, not a lot of strikeouts to go with it. And while at the beginning of his season, even if he was struggling, the Phillies were able to back him up in the run support department. That's not the case in the last 3 games where they're 1-2 in those ball games, including the last one against San Francisco. He went 6 innings, but he gave up 5 runs, 6 of those, he gave up 6 runs, 5 of those were earned, and 9 base hits to go with it with 2 walks. So the Cardinals were number 2 and number 4 in OPS and ISO against righties in the month of May. I think they get to Walker early and often. I like the Cardinals in this one on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.